In this handout, we have two files, new versions of our main window header file and the CPP file. So I'm sure if we take a look at the declaration of the main window, which derives itself from fluid window, so you notice that we have a couple of new callback functions, callback menu save and callback menu load, which are very much identical by their look and feel to callbacks that we were attaching to all of other gadgets. So it's very similar. Likewise, so these are the two actual static callbacks that will be invoked by the fluid library, the full-tick library, and the two member functions here are actual click handlers for save and load menu items. So apparently the third, the quit option, will be just using the existing callback for window closing, so there is no need to create anything new in terms of a new callback function. Alright, so we're going to download this into our source file. So look, my path is to go to Laboratory 20 menu, source. So this is where we have our main window, header and implementation. So here I'm just going to right click and save link as, and point this to the subfolder right here, and just save it, right? So we need to be able to save and replace, of course. And likewise for main window.cpp, same thing. We're just going to save link as, and make sure that you don't save a duplicate copy as my browser is trying to do. Make sure that we replace the actual old version with the new one. Okay, so now both of these were updated, and the next stage is to use WinMerge to observe the differences in the new and old versions. So we can use WinMerge. I already have my WinMerge open, and going back to these subfolders, I would like to open lab 16, which is an exact copy of what we had before we used this as a prototype for our lab 20. So I'm just going to drag and drop the source inside WinMerge, which automatically prompts for folders or files to compare. So and then so this source right here, source of lab 16, I'm going to compare with the source of lab 20. So I'm just going to drag and drop this into the second field right here. Okay, and we should be all set to go. Just make sure that all the settings are the same as we used before. I'm just going to try to compare. As long as it shows me the differences in files, I'm okay with that. So first, quick look at the header file. So that should be very easy to do. So what is happening now is that we now have the new header file included string, which is C++ standard library string. And of course we still have the fluid window. For load and save purposes, we're going to use native file chooser, which is already familiar to us when we try to manipulate loading images into a full-tick project. So these are, of course, the highlights of the menu save and menu load, and the callbacks for menu save and load. We also have global function, a new global function right here named select file. So select file is going to take some sort of prompt to the user and going to return back a string. Apparently I'm expecting this to be a path to the file that the user wants to select. So these are new elements in general. So the header file gives us pretty good idea of what is the new content that we're going to explore in the implementation file. So let's take a look at the implementation file and compare that. So of course our main window show, which is pretty much the startup code for our window, where all the callbacks are configured, various items are taken care of before anything becomes visible. So naturally we tell our menu items, save, load, and quit, to use the callbacks. And we're connecting these callback functions, the static member functions of our main window class, right here for save, load, and window closing. Right, so we're using the same callback as we use for the X button when the user clicks the X button at the title bar, and same thing for window closing. But menu save and menu load are the two new callbacks, which is of course expected. Pretty much all gadgets, all unique gadgets, try to use the corresponding callbacks. So what else? So these are the items that let's take a quick overview of the new items. Menu save, what does it do? So when we this is the handler already inside the main window. In fact, let's just open this in the source editor. I think it will be easier to work with on the source editor. So I'm just going to say View, Solution Explorer, and open main window. So let's navigate to the section right here, which is the place where the new code is added to the implementation file. And for now, we'll just minimize this. All right, so let's search for this. And there really isn't much of implementation for load and save, except that we're printing some debug tracing messages to console output and indicating that this function was invoked, and we're simply obtaining the file path to save. So we call select file for this. And the title to obtain this path is to save file. Very similar, the load click is very similar. Just the load file, the new title for the file chooser dialog, and we get back the file path. And we pretend that we're already loaded or saved the file. So these are just debug tracing. You can see that these are ready to go to plug in whatever functionality we want to do in terms of saving the drawing by the user and loading it back to display it again. So these are the two callbacks, the static callbacks, and they, again, it's just simply taking user data, which is a pointer to our main window, static cast to pointer to main window, and immediately delegate the call to the corresponding member function, non-static member function of our main window, so that this menu save now has access to all gadgets present on the screen, and it can gather information from the data structures that we have in our memory and from the gadgets that are available in the user interface. So menu save and menu load, they're pretty much identical, just basically plugging in menu save, menu load, and here something that we're going to update later on to implement save and load actual processing of these two menu items. And this is select file. It should look very, very familiar. We're just passing prompt to either load or save, and we construct file chooser. I am using the native file chooser right here. Remember that we can specify the directory. If it's a null pointer, it's going to go to the current directory where the program is running. Here's the title. And our type is to browse to find a file suitable for, to be used in this application. So of course browse would also allow us to type a new file name, and the user can create new files if they want to. And of course just a standard switch here to load file path and return file path back to the caller from here. So file path is just simply a pointer to a string of characters. Basically, it's a C-style string. Okay, so that's the plan right here. The user may be able to cancel it. So in case of cancellations, we will be returning an empty string. So it's important for us to depend on if the file path is an empty string. It means that there was most likely the user canceled, just decided to cancel the action. So this is an overview of our callbacks and this new function, which is quite nice to have to be able to prompt for file selections. So let's just very quickly test the new functionality. So here we just build. Okay, and Control F5. I'm just going to start the program. And so here, if I choose to quit, it takes me out of there. Also, if I select save, there's the save file, and it just goes to someplace on my drive right here. So of course I can open or cancel. So let me just choose some file here and say open. Okay, and so this is the debugging messages that we're getting. So yes, indeed, this worked on my system, and I was able to obtain the file name to save